It is Friday, it is All Hallows Eve, and this is the Castlevania 2 Captain Obvious Edition ROM hack that's now available for download and for sampling. And I figure I sample a bit of gameplay. I'm catching this off the emulator, and in the grand tradition of shitty videos capturing emulator footage, we have the big old mouse cursor smack in the middle of the screen. There goes any pretense of this being played on an actual console. Okay, let's get rid. Alright, so I'd figure while this is being played, showing off some of the changes that were being made. You can see the first change there. There's a save feature, which I sort of was testing out, but I can't get rid of now, so you're stuck with it, I guess, pretty much. But anyways, I figure I do read the README that comes included with the patch. First off, what you will need to run this thing is, one, you need a Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest ROM, which is not included. You need an IPS patching program, which is not included. I recommend Lunar IPS, LIPS, if you want to go by the acronym, because it's a quick, simple, and straightforward patching program that's easy to use. And of course, there's the patch, which is what's being supplied along with this README file. Anyways, what this is, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, the Captain Obvious Edition, is a ROM hack of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Whose original intention was to modify all the text from the original, somewhat incomprehensible gibberish of the original game to slightly more comprehensible gibberish that both helps and mocks you, the player, sometimes at the same time. It has since evolved into something more with remade color palettes, somewhat modified levels, removed items, changes in placements of enemies and vendors, and even books have been shuffled around somewhat. And there's also a nifty save function from a prior patch that I can no longer excise from the current project, so it stays. Call it a spoof, call it a mockery, but what it isn't is easier. List of changes. The following is a list of changes made to the game by this patch. All the text change, at least in-game. The original intention of the Captain Obvious Edition was simple. Replace all the text in the game with new text that would be both helpful and a mockery to the player. In the original Simon's Quest, there were bits of dialogue that were either difficult to decipher, flat-out lies, or just plain nonsense. While there is a patch in Simon's Redaction that alters the text in this regards, it also made the game easier by flat-out telling you how to play in a sort of hand-holding way. To some who would get lost in the game that needed a strategy guide or a Nintendo power to progress, this was fine, I suppose. But to some who were able to beat Simon's Quest without the use of a strategy guide, or a tornado for that matter, it just felt like the game was being dumbed down. In this patch, text has been altered to the point where you'll find some helpful advice ranging from some less vague clues to obvious hints, hence the name of this patch. Sometimes you'll find advice that is delivered in a less than helpful fashion, and then you'll run into the folks that simply do not like you or do not care about the quest that you're on. It goes without saying that some naughty words are being used here, so discretion is advised. Color palette changes. At some point, I began tinkering with the color palette to something a little more something, partly to give the world a different air, partly to try and tweak the overall appearance. In the end, there's some drastic color changes in the mansions, and then there are less than drastic changes in the great outdoors and the towns and whatnots. Night is darker than before, mostly blacks and grays than anything. Only interiors such as caves and mansions retain their usual lighting. Presumably because, well, it's the same palette for both day and night, so it's a technical limitation more than anything and beyond my capabilities. Save function. This Captain Obvious Edition hack makes use of Matrix's Castlevania 2 SRAM patch, which essentially replaces the game's original password system with a quick and easy save function. Now, you can save your game. So now you can save your game, only one game, and resume at a later time without much hassle. You don't need to remember passwords or anything like that. Although, much like the passwords, you always start at the town of Jova. That's the town where you usually have the white crystal and what, the town you always start in. This was something I wanted to get rid of originally, but I couldn't find a way to do it, and I didn't make a backup without the save, so it's in there. So, but on the other hand, it sort of opened the idea of the next change, which was the removal of the good weapons. Some items that make the game quote-unquote easier have been removed. In their usual hiding spots, if you've played the original game, you know where to find these things, are text messages that will mock you. And yes, this includes laurels, those little purple plant things that make you invincible for a short period of time. As a result, the use of the save function, while not originally intended, was nice because it's a way to cut down on cheating by using a password to get items that normally wouldn't be gained from the main game, especially those that are removed from the game. So if you were playing this and you have a flame in your inventory, you're cheating because the flame isn't in the game. There's no way to get the flame in game. It's gone. And a couple other things too. Level modifications. Some sections of the games have been modified to either a minor or major degree. Because there are no laurels, poisonous marshes are all but excised from the main game. You'll still find a hint of it in the forests, and replaced with new terrain or bits of water. Some other changes include previously closed paths being open, and due to the way that the game is sort of structured, if you go through some of these paths, it warps you to another part of the game, sort of like a one-way warp. You know, sort of like the tornado, but without the tornado, you just walk through it or something, and then you'll see. Anyways, placement changes. As you saw in the beginning of this video, the guy that usually sells you the white crystal has been replaced with a girl. The only girl in that town. Makes you wonder about that. Where did the white crystal vendor go? He moved to another town. Where can I find a guy who sells me the thorn whip? He's in a mansion. You got that holy water handy? You'll need it. Again. In addition to changing places of vendors, there's also changes in enemy placements. Where you would normally find skeletons patrolling the area are now inhabited by werewolves, firewolves, and other once rarely used creatures. If nothing else, it adds a bit to the difficulty and also the variety of enemies that you'll encounter, but it also increases the grinding opportunities. After all, some enemies do drop big hearts, and that makes grinding a little easier, especially if you know where to look. The last change, slight graphical changes. There are slight graphical changes. Not immediately noticeable, but they are slight. And a chunk of ending is missing, but it's for the worst ending, the ending you'll get if you took too damn long, so it works, I guess. What's not mentioned in the README is why I wanted to change the endings, but unfortunately, in my trying to edit the endings, despite having a good guide that was helpful, there's like a couple lines of text missing from like the first paragraph of the gray ending. So at the end of the day I said fuck it, so just go as is. So if you get that ending, you'll get like a text that says you won, and then a couple lines will be blank, and then the rest of it will be the old ending. But you know, if I can find a way to get that fixed, I'll release an update or whatever the case may be. But it's just something that I thought I'd mention. So if you see a chunk of ending missing, yeah, that's my own bit of stupidity right there. Anyway, so that's the README file for the most part. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here for the most part, since I've said all that there's needed to be said. Like I said, the link's in the description. Time to wait 10 tedious seconds for day to rise. Text the links in the description if you want to download it and check it out. I do hope you give it a shot, and let me know what you guys think and stuff, I guess. Sort of something. Maybe somewhere down the line I'll do an update or something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Till next time, take care. Good night.